Alright guys, as you know, we've been talking about how all these gaming companies keep making acquisitions and consolidating the industry, and Nintendo officially made a statement about it, calling out Microsoft and Sony. Nintendo says it won't compete with Microsoft and Sony in an acquisitions arms race. Our brand was built upon products crafted with dedication by our employees. That's a good way of saying our games are actually made by people that care about them. We didn't have to go out and buy a bunch of studios because nobody at ours like to make them anymore. Regardless, I just figured it was funny, so yeah, let's talk about it.
I'm getting quiet now. Laying low when you reach zone, piping down, making out, stack the
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think Nintendo has always stood out as like the one gaming company that doesn't have to do what all the other gaming companies do. You know, EA and Activision are out here basically milking whatever franchises they have for like more and more dollars every year. Whereas Nintendo's out here like, we're gonna release this when we see fit. Obviously, I think Nintendo being like so iconic in the world of gaming and consoles has given them a big advantage over companies like Microsoft and Sony, but it's always funny to see like some good-natured crap talking disguised as a corporate letter. You know, nothing wrong with it. I just think it's a funny comment to be like, most of our products that we have were made in-house by employees that like working here, not stuff that we bought. Because it's true, it's not like they can say that's not a fact about Nintendo, and you're not explicitly saying that Microsoft and Sony suck to work for, it's just implied. The Nintendo president, Shuntaro Furukawa, has stated that the company won't be looking to buy up external publishers and studios in the same way Microsoft and Sony have. Microsoft caused shockwaves in the industry earlier this year by acquiring Activision for $70 billion, and this week Sony wrapped up a deal to purchase Destiny studio Bungie for $3.6 billion. I think this makes sense though. Nintendo as a company is just in a lot stronger position when it comes to like the IP and games that they currently have. You know, I think there's multiple Nintendo franchises that are probably as iconic as some of the most powerful ones Sony and Microsoft got going on. Like what, Microsoft, I would say Minecraft and Halo are probably like the biggest two exclusives they have, or like that they own outright. I guess now they own Call of Duty, but before Activision. And I know Minecraft's not exclusive, you guys get what I'm saying. But like, Sony, I'm thinking Crash Bandicoot, Sly Cooper, obviously one of my favorite games. They've got some other exclusives, but all in all, man, Nintendo kind of runs the gamut when it comes to just iconic video game franchises. Like, literally so many different genres, so many different niches. Just to name a few, dude. Mario, obviously one of the most iconic games of all time. I don't think that's even up for debate. They've got Pokemon. Oh yeah, that's just, one of the most profitable media franchises. No, the most profitable one ever created. The Wii alone, like, still printing money, dude. That entire thing was like iconic. Their new console, the Switch, like that's not even related to just their game IP, but the stuff they've created, there's still demand for. Legend of Zelda, just a quick little series. Oh yeah, another one. Donkey Kong, Animal Crossing, Super Smash Bros, Game & Watch, Kirby. Like, the more you go on and on, man, the more you're like, yeah, I guess Nintendo, it doesn't really make sense for them to go out acquiring anybody, because what could they acquire that's anywhere near as iconic as the lineup they already got? I mean, to me, it would make sense for them to, like, acquire the IP to Sega more than anything, just so Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is totally theirs. But if they don't do that, it's not like it's the end of the world, in my opinion. I don't know, I do think Nintendo has such a head start on Sony and Microsoft when it comes to creating valuable IP in gaming. Like I said, I even tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, said their most popular franchises. Like, Nintendo's 5th most popular franchise is probably about as iconic as like the number 2 at Sony or Microsoft. Obviously, they've been around quite a bit longer, but I don't really know what game studio you could even argue is worth it for Nintendo to purchase. I think the last purchase they made was the developers behind Luigi's Mansion, but I don't really know what's out there right now currently that hasn't been bought that would be worth it for them to buy. These aggressive moves have caused many to speculate if Nintendo will look to make any acquisitions itself, but during the investors' briefing, the idea was shot down. Our brand was built upon products crafted with dedication by our employees, and having a large number of people who don't possess Nintendo DNA in our group would not be a plus to the company. I think there's some companies out there that just have something special about them, a little bit of an X factor. Warren Buffett likes to call it, the moat around the company. I think a lot of companies have come that make good games, but the reason Nintendo has been such a mainstay in an industry that has so much change is because of the fact that, you know, they're not really as worried about quarterly reports and microtransaction revenue increasing 12%. Obviously, they want to make money. You know, they're a company. I'm not out here being delusional, being like they don't want to get paid, all right? They want to make money. But I just feel like a lot of the gimmicky stuff that makes you feel like a company's just trying to milk you for money and makes you lose a little bit of respect for them hasn't been done as much by Nintendo. Obviously, you know, they do go with trends a little bit, but it's not like to the point, you know, at this point when I play like a first-person shooter, it just feels like the game is trying to milk me for all my money, because it's like, do you want a weapon skin? Otherwise, you're gonna get bullied? Give us money now, you know, I just don't really get that feeling as much with Nintendo games. And on top of it, the IP is just classic, dude. Like, you put Legend of Zelda on anything, that thing's gonna sell copies, dude, because they have such a good track record with it. I mean, look at it now, you know, Halo's one of the most iconic series Microsoft has ever had. And like, if they put Halo on something, it's not like the entire world stops and goes and plays it. A lot of people do. But when a new Pokemon comes out, you know, like, I feel like people are aware of that. I also think a huge thing to consider, obviously the young generation is very video game aware, you know, but like, I think most people in America could probably identify like Mario and Link, Kirby, you know. I don't really know if the same could be said for a lot of characters from other franchises. I think Sony is way more in a better position than Microsoft, all right? But even then, Nintendo is leagues above them in my opinion, and I love Sly Cooper, all right? I'm a fanboy of Sly Cooper, and even I can't argue that it's as good branding as Nintendo's got altogether. Back in November, Furukawa revealed plans to spend up to 100 billion yen to bolster Nintendo's internal development. It's clear that the company feels the best way to maintain its position is to invest in itself rather than purchase external entities to bring them into the fold. However, during the briefing, he did add that Nintendo isn't against acquisitions in principle, but only if they're necessary. A good example would be the purchase of Luigi's Mansion 3 developer Next Level Games, which was triggered when the studio's major shareholders expressed an interest to sell off their shares. Honestly, I think Microsoft's acquisition of Activision makes sense. The company's in a crappy spot. They probably got a good deal on it relative to what it would have cost if it wasn't in a horrible spot due to their own stupid decisions. Like, I don't think Activision didn't deserve to be in a bad spot. You guys get what I'm saying, though. Microsoft probably overall, for the amount of IP they got when they do eventually try to get that back on track, probably a good deal. But after that, it just felt like all these companies were racing to acquire stuff just to, like, not be left behind in the acquisition race. It's not that, you know, they're against acquiring stuff, as they said. There's just no reason to get caught up in the middle of a pissing contest and spend $18 billion to acquire some stuff that you don't really need. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all low-key had this idea. Sure, Sony buying Bungie is, like, cool. You know, it gives them another studio. Maybe they're gonna develop a hit. Bungie's a good studio. But it, like, doesn't even put you in the same ballpark of what Microsoft did by buying Activision. So it just kind of felt like they were spending $4 billion on this thing to, like, not miss out on how much Microsoft just bought, not because it was really something that made a whole bunch of sense. And obviously, I think Bungie makes good games. I'm not gonna say the deal was wrong. It just wasn't, you know, the same caliber and insanity of how much stuff they got as the Microsoft purchase or when Take-Two bought, oh my gosh, the mobile game Zynga. Speaking to Bloomberg, Tokyo-based consultant Serkan Toto added that he doesn't think Nintendo will look to purchase any studios or publishers. I have a really hard time imagining which of the big ones they'd be interested in buying. Nintendo will stay Nintendo. The company has always relied on first-party games, and I don't see any reason why they should change. I don't know, man. I think in a lot of senses, it makes sense for Sony and Microsoft to be looking towards like a Game Pass model, but Nintendo's just, like I said, got that something about them where they just kind of do what Nintendo wants and it ends up working out because the games are good enough. Obviously, they make very smart business decisions too. I don't think that, like, you know, they're not making smart business decisions. I just think it's a matter of they're playing like 8-dimensional checkers and the rest of us are out here playing chess, you know? Like, they're like, no, trust us. If we do 3 different Switch releases this year with a Chromium finish and then release 1 Legend of Zelda game, we will print more money than Microsoft ever will. And then it just works and you're like, all right, clearly they know what they're doing, bro. You know, they don't need to be playing by the similar rules as everybody else. I just don't think many acquisitions would make sense in the context of, like, adding them to Nintendo unless, you know, it's somebody that works on games with them. But like they said, last time that was a possibility, they made it happen. Overall, I just thought this was pretty funny. It is always interesting to see how Nintendo does things just because it's so different than the other gaming companies. But yeah, if you enjoyed, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. And of course, press the like button and subscribe if you're new. Turn on those notifications. If you really want to help me out, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the intro song down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. Or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. And last but certainly not least, the last link down in the description is going to be a link to the merch store. Feel free to go check it out. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.